Recently, we've seen an extreme conservative movement begin a new assault on the lending firms that aim to expand access to historically underserved communities. Far broader and equally as sinister has been the rapid escalation in attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives throughout our economy in the wake of last June's Supreme Court ruling on affirmative action.
I want my colleagues to know that this NDAA in the base bill takes a meat cleaver to DEI.
Is it worth funding the DEI programs in the military? What good has it brought to the military? We have the biggest recruitment crisis that we've ever had. That is a fact. And I believe that the DEI programs and the politicization of our military is another big reason why.
Given these actions against institutional efforts to address longstanding inequities, it is more important than ever that we speak up to protect Black and minority entrepreneurs and their access to the limited capital that is available to them in the first place. The organizers of the latest attacks are organized, they're determined, as they work to undermine our efforts to make a more inclusive economy. But rest assured, we will be equally as resolute in our defense, and we will not be silent.
Gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Horsford, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you to the chairman and to the ranking member. Good to see you, Secretary, and appreciate you appearing here to discuss the recent report from the Financial Stability Oversight Council. It's a great opportunity to have you here today because since we last spoke about your leadership and how it was instrumental in successfully restoring stability to our banking sector, promoting economic growth far beyond expectations, and adding a staggering 225,000 jobs a month, 3.1 million total in 2023 alone, the year covered by your report. Critically, there was not just growth in the number of jobs created, but the quality of the jobs is rising as well. Americans are finally seeing their incomes climb, and now not only is the level of real annual earnings higher than before the pandemic, but in 2023, the growth of real wages was faster than it was during the pre-pandemic trend. Everyday working families, those earning in the bottom 25th percentile of workers, saw the fastest expansion with a 3.2% jump in their inflation-adjusted incomes. So I want to commend you and the Treasury Department for your invaluable efforts in contributing to this strong growth, as your efforts to mitigate the contagion of a bank run earlier in the year were largely successful. Importantly, the growth in real wages was also concentrated in communities that have historically fared poorly during times of economic recovery, with specific gains being made for Black and Hispanic workers who saw their earnings grow 4% and 2.4% respectively. As you mentioned earlier this year to the Economic Club of Chicago, and according to the Treasury Department's October Equitable Recovery Report, this may have even been the most equitable recovery in recent history. Now, while I recognize that these gains were far better than forecasters predicted, I hope you'll agree with me that there's still more work that needs to be done. As we know that diversity, equity, and inclusions are a business imperative. In fact, I want to enter into the record a report from McKinsey and Company titled Diversity Matters Even More, where they report that the companies with the most diversity in their management team in the top quartile have 39% better performance than those that are not diverse. So Secretary,
Without objection.
Thank you. Secretary Yellen, as Treasury weighs key policy priorities such as the Community Reinvestment Act, the IRA and CHIPS implementation, and other determinations, do you agree with the McKinsey report findings that companies and financial institutions that refuse to incorporate diversity, equity, and inclusion practices into their businesses perform worse than their peers and thus may be riskier?
Well, I'm aware of the research that you cited, and it strikes me as being well done. So while I've not looked at this issue myself, I see very good reasons for the findings you mentioned.
Thank you. And do you believe that these renewed attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts may lead financial institutions to lower the availability of credit to low-income, minority, and underserved communities? And could these pullbacks increase systemic risk within those communities if those institutions are a main source of credit for those underserved populations?
Well, I think access to credit is critically important for these communities, and it would be a devastating thing to see a pullback. As you know, Treasury and the Biden administration have been highly focused on adding through many different programs, including CDFIs and this SSBCI program, access to capital in minority,
Thank you.
low-income
And for that reason,
communities.
Mr. Chair, I add with my colleague and call on you to bring a hearing on this important issue. This is an attack that must be addressed, and this committee should be at the center of it. With that, I yield.
Gentleman